Welcome to Chapter 5, Module 3, Price Elasticity of Supply and Other Types of Elasticity. Segment 1, Price Elasticity and its Interpretation. What will you learn in this segment? We will introduce the definition of price elasticity of supply. You will learn why price elasticity of supply is always positive. You will learn under which circumstances price elasticity is high and when it is low. And also, we will introduce other types of elasticity, cross-price elasticity and income elasticity. The definition of price elasticity of supply is very similar than the one of price elasticity of demand. It says, price elasticity of supply measures the percentage change of quantity supplied when the price changes by 1%. Before we discuss elasticity of supply further, I want to review the law of supply with you. The review is based on the market supply for the wheat farmers, which we developed in Chapter 5 in Module 2. The law of supply states, firms are willing to produce and sell a greater quantity of a good when the price of the good is higher. You can see that in the supply schedule on the left-hand side. If the price is 440, the supplied quantity is 0. When the price increases, the supplied quantity increases. Or another way to say it, firms are willing to produce and sell a smaller quantity of a good when the price of the good is lower. Again, we look at the supply schedule and just go backwards. When the price decreases, the quantity supplied decreases too. Obviously, the price and supplied quantities are always moving in the same direction. Therefore, the supply curve has an upwards slope. And what you see here is actually the supply curve we developed in Chapter 4. The price elasticity of supply is always positive. We can prove that if we use the definition of price elasticity and the law of supply. If the price change is positive, then the quantity supplied will increase. The percentage change of quantity is positive too. Dividing something positive by something positive gives a positive sign. If the price change is negative, meaning the price decreases, then the supplied quantity will decrease too. The percentage change of quantity will be negative. Dividing something negative by something negative gives again something positive. Thus, a positive sign. Measuring price elasticity between 2 points of the supply curve is very similar than measuring price elasticity between 2 points on the demand curve. We start with finding out which point is the initial point and which point is the new point. We assign the initial point to the lower left point in the diagram and the new point to the higher right point, which means we move along the curve from the lower left to the upper right. Which price goes with the lower left point with the initial point? We go horizontally to the axis and find out 425 is our initial price labeled as P0. Then we go straight down and we reach the horizontal axis approximately at a supplied quantity of 240. We have to do the same thing for the new point. We go horizontally to the price axis, find out that the price P1 of 435 goes with the new point. Then we go straight down from the new point until we reach the horizontal axis and find out that a supplied quantity of approximately 360 goes with a new point. We label this supplied quantity with S1. To summarize the results, the price increased from 425 to 435. The quantity supplied increased from 240 to 360. following the law of supply. Now we can use the concept of the midpoint formula to calculate the percentage change of quantity and the percentage change of price. We start with calculating the percentage change of quantity. The new quantity was 360. We subtract the original quantity 240 and the absolute price change is plus 120. Divide this by the level, again the midpoint level. We add 240 plus 360 and divide the result by 2, which gives us the midpoint, which is obvious to see here that it is 300. 120 divided by 300 gives 0.4. To turn this into a percentage value, we shift the decimal points 2 units to the right, and the result, 40%, will be substituted in the price elasticity formula. Then we calculate the percentage change of price. Again, we use the midpoint formula. We calculate the change of price first, the absolute change, which is 435 minus 425. The result is $10. Then we divide by the level, calculating the midpoint, 425 plus 435 divided by 2 gives 430, which is obviously the midpoint between 425 and 435. 10 divided by 430 gives 0.0233. We have to move the decimal points 2 units to the right to get a percentage value, which is 2.33%, and then we substitute into the definition equation of price elasticity. 40 over 2.33, or 40 divided by 2.33, gives 17.17. This means the quantity supplied reacts approximately 17 times more sensitive than the percentage price increase which triggered it. Or, which means the same, if the price increases by 1%, quantity supplied will increase by 17.17%. Similar to the price elasticity of demand, we ask the question, under which circumstances is the price elasticity high? The best thing is to remember the law of supply. If the price increases, producers will increase their production. If this is hard for them, they will likely not increase their production so much. So if producers or sellers, which is the same here, can change the amount of the good produced easily, the price elasticity of supply tends to be high. Otherwise it is low. Here's an example. It is relatively easy to change the amount of production for manufactured goods, such as books, CDs or DVDs. Producers can introduce late shifts or night shifts, or even buy more equipment to produce more. Increasing the supply of beachfront houses is not that easy, because there is not so much land at the beachfront available, and it is a high risk for the producer to build on such expensive land. Therefore, the price elasticity for manufactured goods tends to be higher than for beachfront houses. The second topic, which influences how high the price elasticity of supply is related to time. In the long run, price elasticity of supply is higher than in the short run. Economists usually define the long run something between 1 year or several years, while the short run is something between a few days and 1 or 2 years. The example will show that the argument is very similar to the first one. The price elasticity of supply for beachfront houses is low in the short run. We figured that already out. Mainly because it is difficult for builders to find beachfront land. They have to take a high financial risk, and it takes time to build the houses. In the long run, the price elasticity of supply is more price elastic because builders have time to evaluate the risk, they have time to build, and possibly a change of zoning makes more beachfront land available. Before we finish this segment and before we finish the chapter, I would like to discuss two other types of elasticity with you. One is cross-price elasticity of demand, and the other one is called income elasticity. The definition of cross-price elasticity is similar to the one of price elasticity of demand, and at first it sounds like it does not make a lot of sense. Cross-price elasticity of demand measures the percentage change of quantity demanded for one good when the price of another good changes by 1%. The calculation is also similar to the one of price elasticity of demand. We take the percentage quantity change of the one good and divide it by the percentage change of price of the other good. Why would somebody possibly be interested in what happens to the quantity demanded of one good when the price of another good changes? But just wait a moment. When we discuss substitutes and cross-price elasticity and complements and cross-price elasticity on the next slides, this will make much more sense. We start with analyzing the sign of cross-price elasticity of demand. Cross-price elasticity of demand is always positive for substitutes. If you don't remember what substitutes are goods which are similar enough that you can substitute the one with the other. To review substitutes as well as complements, I recommend to go to Chapter 4, Module 2. As substitutes, I chose here Pepsi and Coke. So the definition of price elasticity is percentage change of quantity of Pepsi divided by the percentage change of price of Coke. What would we expect if the price of Coke increases and the change of price would be positive? Then some people who drank Coke before would start drinking Pepsi and the demand for Pepsi would increase. The percentage change of quantity for Pepsi would be positive too. This means if we have two substitutes like Pepsi and Coke, plus divided by plus, the price elasticity will be positive. This also works if the price of Coke decreases. Then the percentage change of the price of Coke would be negative. If Coke gets less expensive, some people who consume Pepsi might change to Coke. The percentage change of quantity for Pepsi would be negative. And if we divide something negative by something negative, we always get something positive. We can summarize. If we have two goods which are substitutes, then the cross-price elasticity will be positive. What is the sign of the cross-price elasticity for complements? Remember, complements are goods which go together in consumption, like snowboards and lift tickets. If you use the one, you need the other. So what happens if the price of lift tickets increases? Then the percentage price change of lift tickets is positive. People will buy less lift tickets, go less snowboarding, and therefore need less snowboards. The demand for snowboards would go down. The percentage change of quantity for snowboards would be negative. Dividing something negative by something positive results in something negative. Cross-price elasticity of demand for complements is always negative. This is also true if the price decreases. If lift tickets are getting cheaper, thus the change of price for lift tickets is negative, people will snowboard more, they need more snowboards, the demand for snowboards increases, and the percentage change of quantity for snowboards will be positive. Dividing something positive by something negative gives something negative. Again, cross-price elasticity of demand is negative for complements. Is measuring cross-price elasticity really important? Yes, it is. Here's an example. Are ice cream and chocolate substitutes, or are they complements? You could argue they are substitutes because they are both sweet, and this means if the one gets more expensive, consumers might just substitute it with the other. You also can argue that they are complements because you need a lot of chocolate for chocolate ice cream. So if the ice cream consumption increases, the demand for chocolate would increase. So what is true? Are they complements or are they substitutes? Both the ice cream industry and the chocolate industry would be very interested in answering this question. How can we find out? We would just measure the cross-price elasticity for chocolate based on the price changes of ice cream and find out if it is greater or smaller than zero. If the cross-price elasticity for chocolate and ice cream is negative, then they are complements. If the cross-price elasticity is positive, then there are substitutes. Finally, we will cover income elasticity of demand. We start with a definition. Income elasticity of demand measures the percentage change of quantity demanded for a good when the income of the consumers changes by 1%. And it is calculated as follows. You take the percentage change of quantity and divide it by the percentage change of income. One would expect that income elasticity is positive. We can show this with an example. Let's take gourmet food. If income increases, the percentage change of income would be positive. People can afford to consume more gourmet food. The percentage change of demanded quantity for gourmet food is positive. And if we divide something positive by something positive, the result would be positive. The same is true for a decrease in income. If income decreases, the percentage change of income would be negative. The demanded quantity for gourmet food would be smaller. The percentage change of quantity demanded for gourmet food would be negative. And if we divide something negative by something negative, the result is positive. Which means income elasticity is positive for normal goods. Maybe you were wondering why we considered gourmet food as normal good. This shows that we use the term normal good in an economic sense rather than in a general sense. A normal good is by definition a good where quantity demanded increases when income increases. If you want to review that, please go to chapter 4, segment 2. How is a good called which is not normal then? It's called inferior good. An inferior good is a good where demanded quantity decreases if income increases. And a typical inferior good would be food for less. If consumers' income increases, they can afford more expensive food and would buy less in food for less supermarkets. The income elasticity of demand is always negative for inferior goods. We can show that with the definition of income elasticity. If income increases, people will buy less in food for less supermarkets. Therefore, when the percentage change of income is positive, the percentage change of quantity demanded for goods in food for less supermarkets will be negative. Negative divided by positive gives negative. And the same is true when the income decreases. Consumers can spend less money for expensive food, so they buy more goods in food for less supermarkets. and the quantity demanded increases. A negative percentage change in income leads to a positive change of demanded quantity. Something positive divided by something negative, the result will be negative. Income elasticity is negative if we have an inferior good. Is it important to measure income elasticity of demand? Yes, it is. An example about Walmart will explain this. Walmart has goods with very low prices. So one could think that mainly poor people would buy in Walmart, and if income increases, consumers would be able to buy in more expensive supermarkets. But if you go in a Walmart supermarket, you will find out that it looks like that people of all income ranges buy at Walmart. So is Walmart an inferior good, or is Walmart not an inferior good? Who wants to know? Walmart would. Because if Walmart goods are mainly inferior goods, then bad messages for the economy, income decreases, would be good messages for Walmart, demand increases. If Walmart sells mainly normal goods, bad messages for the economy, income decreases, would be bad messages for Walmart too, demand decreases. This means Walmart would be very interested in to find out if the income elasticity for most of its good is positive, normal goods, or if it is negative, inferior goods. What did you learn in this segment? You learned about price elasticity of supply, why it is always positive, how to calculate price elasticity with a midpoint formula between 2 points of the supply curve, and what determines elasticity of supply. You also learned about other types of elasticities, cross-price elasticity and income elasticity. You learned why they are important, and you learned to interpret these elasticities depending on if they are positive or negative.